Hey folks, Mil-Spec Ops Mickey here. Let's talk sat phones for a minute. If you have been watching what's going on around the world, Maui fire is a perfect example. When the cell towers go down, you lose the ability to communicate with anyone. If you're wanting to get a satellite phone, now is the time. You don't want to try and find one of these things while things are in the middle of going hot. So jump over there to sat123.com. That's sat123.com. Through the satellite phone store. They've got some amazing plans going right now. They've got the Iridium 9555 phone plus a Garmin watch. That's included in that plan. It's 100 minutes or text. Then they've got the MRSat 2 phone that is actually out. Again, it's available, as well as the 9575 Iridium phone. That these are the best satellite phones on the planet, I'm telling you. This is a limited time offer. Buy one, get one on them. And then, of course, if you're interested in the Bivy Stick, they've got the bundles going where you can get the Bivy Stick, the smartphone, as well as a Faraday bag to protect your equipment. And so that's going to be sat123.com. That's sat123.com. Or give them a call, 941-841-0844. Tell them Monkey sent you. All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Mickey here. It's going to be your SITREP. It is around 11 a.m. Central Time, coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And we're going to just take a look across the gamut today, talk a little bit about the stuff going on in Ukraine, but we're going to focus on the home front here, as well as just some of the other happenings around the world. It's like the world lottery. Who's going to hit first big? And what are they going to hit on? So you just can't tell. There are so many different elements that are going on around the world, whether it's going to be, some type of pestilence, famine type of a thing, or is it the economy? Is it going to be war? All of these look to be just on this powder keg platform, and it's not just the United States. It's everybody. Everybody just seems to be on a hair trigger right now. And we could really use somebody to come in here and just kind of set everybody straight, couldn't we? So let's see what happens here. But let's jump over here to our mini. We're going to look at the aircraft that are up currently right now on Skyglass. And as you can see, sitting up around 313. It was around 350 just a couple minutes ago. I've already stripped out 22 T-38, sorry, and then 61 Text 2. These are both trainers. So let's just look at the air refuelers, see what we've got going on. We've got 12 767 Pegasus up, and then let me go down to the KC-135s, and we'll see what we're looking at. Another, wow, almost 30 of those. So we've got quite the sea of air refuelers up right now. Over the United States. We'll look over in Europe, too, to see if we're seeing anything at all. I didn't even look at the DC-10s anymore. They don't fly them that often, and if you do see them, it's kind of like the C-5, supply bird. It just you just don't get a lot of them up. So anyway, these are the current. Just notice the west side hasn't even started really acting up yet. We just have one that's a little bit west. That's Utah 51 coming out of probably Salt Lake City or Ogden or somewhere around there. But looks like Tampa's got their hand in the mix here this morning. We've got two headed down to the Texas border, and the rest look to be kind of in their normal location. So let's jump over here, but that is a lot. That's total 40 on the screen, which is a pretty significant amount. Okay, over to Europe. I'm only seeing one. We got one right here, and let's see. That's going to be Quid 38. Not really too much going on there. It's just to the left side of the North Sea, and that's it. So let's do this. Let's jump over here and look at our watch list. That kind of tells a different story. We'll start off in Europe, and just notice that you've got a handful of the usual suspects up. We've got some survey birds in there. That lists Psy Aviation. That's going to be an intelligence gathering aircraft. Looks to be kind of in the France region. And then we've got some Navy P-8s up as well. Little R-135, that Gordo 21. And that's going to be a Ruski. Not too much really showing from the Russian side of the house. A lot of drones. That right there is going to be one of your Spec Ops birds. Okay. So remember, that's Uber for Spec Ops. So that's U.S. Air Force, and they could be flying anybody. Okay, could be Dagger guys, could be, yeah, like I said, anybody. So let me remove those traces. Those were from an earlier grab, and so clean that up. A little border patrol stuff going on. Some survey down towards the border. I see a couple R-135s, but look at the surveys. There's kind of 30 of those in the mix. Back them out so you can see it. Just kind of flash them there on the screen for you. A lot of survey flights, especially in the Northeast right now. That's probably because the leaves are starting to change and they can get better looks on things. When the leaves come off, I imagine they're going to be polishing that data very quickly. But again, and there are little Glex. I think that's a comms bird that's in and out of Macon. And then Sam, the little blue and white dignitary aircraft. And we got the NOAA birds up, etc. But if I jump back over here, just to note, a couple R-135s. And let me do this. I'm going to jump back over to our main. Let me get back over to CONUS. And then I'm just going to point out the fact that there is a teal aircraft that is currently up. That's going to be one of your weather birds, right? That's a sub hunter. C-130, U.S. military, you know, they go out there and do stuff just like NOAA does. We'll look at NOAA. Not too much in terms of NOAA right now, but anyway, just to give you a little bit of the zest here out over that general area. And let's look at the intel. Now, remember last time we got together, we were looking at the intel aircraft that were over Europe. And that was kind of the main concentration, and it is actually very, very active and busy, which tells me we are getting eyes on a lot of stuff that's on the move right now. And it tells you the U.S. is worried about something, very concerned. Check this out. Now, this is starting off in the U.S., and it's really not too much. You know, the normal areas, the borders, a little spot over San Francisco, some stuff over D.C., but look at Europe and look at the layers. This thing is like a pedophore, man. There are so many layers on this cake. It's not even funny. And look at this. That's just insane. And it's all up in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, along the border of Belarus. And you get down, they're looking out over the Mediterranean towards Benghazi, Tripoli. And then, of course, looks like a broken trace there looking at maybe the Suez Canal area, right? Now, that becomes important. We'll look at that closer here in just a minute. When we look at the sub-hunters, look at just a little blemish there over towards Southern California. And then as we get a little bit more, look at coming out of Jacksonville. Look at the broken traces down towards Cuba. All right. Off the East Coast, off the West Coast of Florida, right? Jacksonville, Cape Canaveral, out off of Tampa. Very, very active in terms of sub-hunters. Remember, there are these buoys on the ocean bottom that will tell us if anything's in the area, but sometimes they could be a little stealthy. Looking down at Africa, not seeing much. Remember, these are Navy sub-hunters, and you see some coming out of the UK, out over the North Sea. Notice this one running up around the Horn there towards Russia, okay? Getting out there, taking a look-see. Then you get a little further south. Now, this is why I was just pointing at that area, you know, near Constanta, the Black Sea. But notice that area that runs in between Greece and Turkey. Major, major pinch point right there, going in between Istanbul and getting into the Med and into the Black Sea. Major pinch point. So if you control that, you control all of the flow of goods in and out going towards Russia. So I would imagine we have eyes on that area very closely. And then a little bit over Japan, bouncing down to the southern end of Australia, down under, and then up a little further north there in Australia. So not too much from that standpoint. So let's continue on with the drones, and you'll see a little bit of, looks like some surveillance down on our borders towards Arizona and California. A little bit there north towards Canada and the Dakotas. And then let's see. Get down here, look at this. Again, drone activity. That's Turkey, the low altitude drones. Notice that right there in the area. You got the Istanbul kind of running through, and then out over the Black Sea, which we would expect to see, and then down towards Tripoli, right? Looking at stuff out over the Mediterranean. So that tells you that the U.S. is very concerned about that area. And then notice here towards Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So let's break away from that. Let's look at the R-135s. Again, tells a story. U.S. stuff, you notice the one looking down way south at the Texas border. And then you got something up there near Alaska, which is, they've got a squadron of them up there. That little bit of arc looking at something out over the eastern side of the United States. And remember, they can look at stuff from like 300 plus miles, okay? But then look at this pattern, just like we had with the Intel birds. Look at their area of concentration right now. Belarus, and then look right here, Kaliningrad. That's Russia. Yeah, just circling it, like not even trying to hide. They're looking at everything inside that circle right there. And from that, that viewpoint, there's no stone unturned. And again, just like the Sub Hunter, right around the horn, up towards the northern end there of Russia. I'm not seeing anything else in the general area. So that takes us over to the U.S., and then let's look at what's going on with Customs and Border Patrol. And I just loaded these into my watch list. Got a lot of aircraft in there. And you can see a lot of stuff around the borders. You expect that. It's Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol folks. Out over the water. Look at Louisiana, Texas. Then you get up even further north into Michigan and Wisconsin. Over into Minnesota. Look at this down into the Caribbean, right? And then even down here near the northern side of South America. Like, what are they doing down there, right? So, kind of an interesting deal there. I don't know what they're doing, but nonetheless, they're doing it. Okay. And then we'll just take a quick look at the FBI. It's, did I say the F word? I meant to say Gestapo is what I meant to say. But let's look at quickly at the, well, you know what? Maybe if I didn't hide my screen. There we go. Take a look at the Gestapo. You can see normal locations in and out of D.C. And this is their 757-200 as well as their little de Havilland Dash 8 aircraft. But look to be headed north and south as well as west, down there into near Beaumont. And looks like into San Francisco, right? Wasn't that where we just saw some of the intelligence aircraft gathering too? Then up here looks like in Washington State. So, okay, back to our mini-me board, and let's do this. Let's get into the news cycle. Starting it off with Flashbang. It is October 4th, and notice that this one I find interesting. That is going to be a whole lot of not happening. He's just floating it out there because there's a lot of people that are butthurt level Bravo because they still have to pay student debt. And, he's just going to dangle that carrot out there for a while. But I'm willing to bet that never takes place, okay? It was just, it's a ploy to buy votes, okay? And anyway, there you have it. Nothing else going on here, as they like to say. Nothing to see here, folks. Let's get away from our village, and let's get into what is going on in the United States. Check this out. U.S. crowed. I don't know if you've noticed that the crude inventories dive by 4.2 million barrels. That's a major deal because they were only expecting it to drop by like 92,000 barrels, something like that. Analysts were expecting modest inventory draw of 92,000 barrels for the week. The total number of barrels of crude oil moved so far this year is coming up to about 9 million. That's according to the API. But this is where it is on the list. Now, remember, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, this is the DOE reported that the crude oil inventories in the SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve, fell yet again by 300,000 barrels last week, saying that it's still sitting at a near 40-year low at 351.3 million barrels. Well, you think, well, that's a lot of crude, right? It's a lot of oil. But we consume about 52 million barrels a day here in the United States. And so that's about 6.7 days worth of oil. So you got a week's worth of strategic petroleum reserve, which is that's pretty low. And what happens when, say, we go into war, that stuff gets allocated to the military. It doesn't have anything to do with us, we the people. And the military's basically got a week's worth of oil to draw from their strategic petroleum reserve. That's a really bad place to be. A really bad place to be. Now, in the past, you've seen them draw from that because we'll have some big spikes in maybe gas prices and things like that, and it just kind of offsets it a little bit. But the reality is it doesn't help us much now, because if it's down to a level where you only got about a week's worth left, they're continuing to draw, not add to, but take away from. That means your SPR is probably going to be almost null and void. So when you see the prices of oil going through the roof, there's nothing you can do other than start walking or telecommuting, because your pump prices are going to go through the roof. And so anyway, that's where we are. So that's the first little data point for you. The other piece is this one. There's your look at this. The U.S. national debt, $33 trillion. All right. They're saying that the U.S. national debt topped $33 trillion for the first time ever on Monday, crossing a critical milestone at a time when government spending is already under scrutiny. Yeah, well, these knuckleheads are actually saying that they're expecting that to I think it said double, $33 trillion as of Monday afternoon, according to the Treasury Department. By comparison, just so you have a data point for you here this morning, the national debt 4 decades ago was at $907 billion, $7 billion. So 907 B, that was just 40 years ago, and now it is at 33 trillion. But yeah, they're saying that. Let's see, where was it? I saw these huge numbers. Yeah, they're basically saying they expect that to double here in the next handful of years. So anyway, not good at all. Right. So let's just walk away from that one. Again, just a data point for you. And if you didn't see it, I'm sure you did. You probably all heard about it. House makes history and removes McCarthy as Speaker. Remember when he got voted in? They basically said, hey, you're going to be on a short leash, and if you do anything that makes us mad, we're basically going to have you bounced. I'm glad they held to the word for once. But where was this whenever, Nancy Fancy Pants Pelosi was in, right? So nonetheless, I don't think anybody really liked this guy to begin with, but looks like they are now without a House representative speaker, just a speaker in general. But here's the thing. What I was reading, and this is going to get kind of crazy, but they're saying they've actually tabled Trump's name as coming in as the House Speaker. So let that sink in for a minute. I doubt that'll ever happen. One, because he's on the campaign trail. Two, because he's up to his ears in trials and defending himself. But can you imagine what would happen if they nominated Trump to be the House Speaker? That would just be insane. I can't imagine the amount of he'd just be cracking heads the whole time. I think entertainment value would be just extraordinary in that case, but I don't know that it would help us much. It may actually help him in terms of the campaign side of the house, but it also, I don't know. I think it takes away a lot of his time, and he doesn't have a lot of that right now. All right. Yep, it is October 4th. Your iPhone is going to make, or your Android or whatever your devices are, all, including your TV, is supposed to make some special sound today at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time because of the emergency alert test. You can turn your phone off if you want. It's not going to matter. Believe me, they are tracking your stuff 24/7. So turning it off for this particular event isn't going to do anything. Okay. So anyway, we move on. Pentagon warns it's running low on money to replenish weapons sent to Ukraine. We knew that, right? But we are starting to see this trend where everybody is starting to say, hey, we don't have enough of our own stocks. stockpiles. And so this sending stuff to Ukraine is now getting to the point where it's actually mission critical for our own defense. It's not just them saying this, but it is. It's you hear it from Germany, you hear it from the UK. We'll look at UK here in just a second, but this is telling them, hey, look, we've sent Ukraine everything we got, and the money that we're using to basically go out and buy the replacement parts for the stuff that we've sent to Ukraine is drying up. And they're saying, let me see, I saw the number down here. It says Congress previously approved $26 billion to replenish the U.S. stocks, but the Pentagon comptroller, keep in mind, this is a guy that all of a sudden finds money because their accounting is just so stellar. But just told Congress that he's only $1.6 billion left until his checkbook basically runs out of money. So very, very bad place to be, especially when you have your adversaries frothing at the mouth to take you down right now. All right. And like I said, it's not just the U.S. You've heard Germany say it. You've even heard Slovakia recently come out and say, no mas, man, we're not doing anymore. So check this out. Britain, all out of arms to give to Ukraine. So everybody is basically tapping out. So what I see is a crack within the NATO armor right now. You've got Slovakia already, saying, we're done. UK is starting to talk it, even though they're talking about putting their own forces and troops on ground in Ukraine. It looks like they're going to not give them anymore. So if it gets smoked, in the field, that's it. Let's just watch and see what happens. But this is not a good story for anybody that's may have to fight a war here in the near future because it's been deplenished in Ukraine. All right. Let's get over here and take a look at our NOTAMs. As you can see, as we get across here in the U.S., a little bit of slop. This is going to be your heavy weather. Looks like right now over Arkansas, you guys are getting some pretty bad thunderstorms in terms of turbulence, an area you don't want to fly into. A lot of air shows going on. Again, danger boxes in the normal locations. Got one I thought was interesting. I think this could be another one of those atmospheric waves. I do find it interesting that this box just so happens to point in that same direction. Are they going to mess with it? Is it going to increase? And then, of course, out here, note towards Kwajalein. Looks like we have a missile launch. So this, if you know anything, especially when it comes to hypersonics and you talk about missile ranges, there are very, very few missile ranges in the world that we can use, especially when it comes to hypersonic missiles because of the how fast they have to travel and how far they have to travel. But it looks like maybe this is what this is here. And they're going to be using the Marshall Islands, Kwajalein Atoll for one of the launches. So this right here, Ebi, that's actually one of your local areas there within Kwajalein, but it looks to be all covered up. And anyway, Majuro, that's the capital of the Marshall Islands. And Kwajalein is a U.S. Army base that's out there in that location. Typically, we'll see missiles coming inbound from Vandenberg, California to this location. It's roughly 4,000 miles away from the western coast of California, right? Western side of the United States, 4,000 miles away. They will launch an ICBM out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, and it will splash down in the lagoon here in Kwajalein in about 18 minutes. All right, 4,000 miles away. So 2,000 to Hawaii, 2,000 just about any direction to any of the mainlands. I know that because I lived out there for a while. So, but again, this is that atmospheric river. Let's bounce over to this for a second. And I'm calling it atmospheric river. It may not be that, but just notice that is quite the green going across there, and it is headed this particular direction to the west coast. And so, again, we had that kind of weird, wonky missile box that was launching out in this general area. And then, of course, you can see a lot of stuff going on the southern end down near Mexico, headed kind of towards Baja. That looks to be a pretty big watch area. Remember, we're still in hurricane season. We're past the peak of it, but we're still very active in it. And then this is where you saw the Teal flight coming out. That's going to be a U.S. military C-130 that's out doing Hurricane Hunter activity. And that looks like it's, once again, headed almost to the exact same spot as the last one that just came in right here. So there you have it. At least the projection is. All right. Okay. So we will minimize that and back to our NOTAMs. Let's see. We get over here to Europe. I don't see anything other than this pop back up. We do have these two boxes to the north in the Barents Sea, north of Russia. Don't know what that's all about, but it's there just for your viewing pleasure. And there we have it. All righty then. Let's move on. Okay, Serbian troops on Kosovo border stoke fears of a new Balkan war. Yeah, it looks like this is about to go hot. I would imagine it probably will go hot. But again, it just goes to show you that there is a quite the fragment happening here within. Let me pull this into the right zone as we get over here. Right in this general area, right? We've talked about Romania and all of the surveillance going on here. We talk about, Bulgaria with our U.S. troops here. But when you start talking about, Croatia and Bosnia and Serbia and Kosovo and those areas, remember Slovakia just basically said, we're done contributing to the Ukraine war effort, okay? And so many of these folks are very pro-Russian. And so I think that's what we're seeing is people are kind of getting tired of it, getting kind of bullied by NATO and the United States. Now, the other piece here, notice this over Lithuania, a complete and covered up box. If you click on it, it basically says that all Russian registered aircraft and aircraft owned, chartered, or operated by natural or legal persons from the Russian Federation or by operators holding Air Operator Certificate, AOC, issued by Russia, are basically prevented or prohibited from entering the Lithuania airspace. All right. That means that if, any of these folks here in Belarus, anybody from Russia, if they want to come into Kaliningrad, they have to fly all the way around. They can't even go over this box. They have to come around here and then come into Kaliningrad. Don't be surprised if you don't see Sweden or somebody go in and actually do the same thing, which would make it a very tight little area for them to get in and out of to get to this particular area. Now, this, again, is Russia. This is the area that you see them, the R-135s, the intelligence aircraft, the drones, everything else looking very closely at this area. That tells you there's probably some nukes on the move here, all right, or some nuclear submarines or something that they want, eyes on. Okay. Let's get over here to our military bases here in the United States and see if we've got anything moving that catches my eye. I do see this one coming out of Grand Forks, North Dakota. That's a SPA flight, a little 737. Don't know what that's about, but it's headed to Tucson from there. My guess is this is probably tied to some type of immigrant move, all right? Could be, I'm just doubting. Could be some troops, but I don't think so. Sun Country coming out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and don't see it leaving. I just see it on the docket coming inbound. And then, of course, this little Glex aircraft. That is probably, if I had to guess, that's probably one of those comms birds, okay? All right. Over to Dover. As we get down, let's see. We're just looking for 747s. Look like one out of JFK coming inbound. Don't see anything else there. Another one. These are both the Coletta birds, all right? This one's coming out of Ogden, Utah. Hill Air Force Base. That's actually, it's going to be a logistics hub, but it's also going to be, that's a depot for the F-35. I think landing gear. But, all right, where are they heading? This is a camber flight into Ramstein, another one to RZ, Poland. So both of them look to be headed over to Europe. Now, we'll get a closer look at that stuff here in just a second. This is going to be Ramstein in Germany. Just notice you've got a camber flight inbound, another camber. We go down, another camber. So there's 4 camber flights coming in from all around the area, probably processing. There's probably a big troop rotation happening right now. Then it looks like this one's leaving. Destination unknown. There's a 777. The Dukes coming out of Wiesbaden. Those are just going to be, base commanders. This one coming out of Stuttgart. And let's see, near Alexandria. That's not Louisiana. That's going to be Egypt. All right. 767. So that's probably some troops in and out of the area. And then again, out of Doha, 747 is where that's headed. So Again, this is going to be Ramstein. And then let's jump over here to RZE Poland, see if we got any activity at all that catches my eye. I'm looking really for the heavy birds, right? Here's a camber coming in from Dover. Probably tank deliveries, okay, more than likely. And then as we get over to this side of it, not seeing too much. Got one Atlas Air. It looks to be headed to Seoul, Korea. And then another one headed out to Guam from there. So it looks like both the Atlas birds are headed over to Southeast Asia. And nothing else that really catches my eye. There's a Western Global there coming in from Canada. So it looks like the Canadians are ponying up some stuff there. 747-400. And then look at the camber board. Now, this is active currently in the air. Again, these are, this is precious cargo, right? This is going to be either troops, going to be stuff that goes boom, all right? Or things that shoot things that go boom. But let me do this. I'm going to bump down here to the camber flight. This is how it looked here about an hour and a half ago. I haven't seen this level of U.S. Transportation Command aircraft airborne in a pretty hot minute. So where they all end up going will be the $1 million question, but a lot of stuff airborne right now, okay? All right, so back to our board. That's active currently. And just notice, let's see, this one looks to be landing in Jordan. It's on the descent. This one's still southbound. It could be headed the same area. A couple there over the United States. Get out over Asia. Not really seeing too much. So this is... notice the board down here doesn't match what we're seeing up here on the flight map, right? Kind of seeing that a lot more lately. That tail number right there with the CK ending, the same thing with that one. Those are going to be Coletta birds, all right? And 747s, probably moving heavy equipment. And then this one, notice where it's coming out of Columbus, Ohio. All right. This will be your Brits, and their board is a little lighter. But notice that a little A400 coming out of Perot Field Alliance headed down to Mexico City. Don't know what that's all about, but that's an interesting one. A400 is a kind of an odd aircraft. If you see it, it looks like you had like a C-141 and a C-130, and somebody just made a hybrid aircraft combining the two aircraft styles. Okay, but nonetheless, most of these are transports. There could be an R-135 in the mix there, but most of those are transports that we're looking at. All right, and then National Cargo, all 747s. Where you going, boys? One coming out of Bangkok International, Chicago O'Hare, Anchorage, Alaska, and Nuevo Leon. All right, Monterey. Interesting. Yeah. So they're moving. Looks like we are seeing another slight uptick in the big heavy cargo stuff. So either we're going to see a big push going into RZE with some tanks, or they're moving a lot of artillery around. But most of it is when they start heading over here to the Asian Pacific side of the house, they're picking stuff up and taking it back. Now that one's deep in the heart of China. So that is not picking up anything, not taking troops. That's probably an independent charter flight that they're picking up. I say that. That's the one headed to China. This one's coming out of Bangkok. But that right there, they're probably getting, if I had to guess, critical supplies like pharmaceuticals. It pays the big bucks there coming out of Anchorage. It's just a fuel stop, right? This one here is probably going to end up landing in Anchorage too, although it could probably make that flight. And then last one up is Omni, and looks like that one is headed into Baltimore, Washington from Shannon, Ireland. So again, I think we are seeing some troop rotation going, but the heavies are key. That maybe we're delivering the tanks. Could be ATACMs. Could be some of the big stuff that we're going to pony up to the board. Do know that we've already promised them, and we've been delivering the cluster munitions and everything else that usually the UN and NATO all kind of don't like seeing on the battlefield, because it's almost like chemical weapons. I guess they consider it inhumane because of the amount of live ordnance that is left. It's like mines or something on the field, right? Not all of it explodes. So, all right, listen, that's going to do it for now. Let's see what happens here in this World Lottery. Who's going to draw the first big hit, and what's it going to be? Only time will tell, but it just doesn't seem like it's that far off. All right. All right, that's it. You guys keep that powder dry and stay frosty. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. You can check out the latest gear and products by selecting the QR code on your screen now or go to monkeywerxus.com.